Traders, hello. So I want to do a technical analysis of Tesla. It's the 11th of August 2022, and actually this came through into my Twitter feed earlier today, which is Cathie Wood's ARK, which is an ETF fund, has sold off a large chunk of shares this morning. Not saying it's hugely significant because Cathie Wood has been known with NVIDIA, for example, to buy in at the worst time and get out at the worst time. They exited NVIDIA before they recovered and had their biggest climb ever. So it's not necessarily about that. I just mentioned there's actually this, I believe, is the second lot of sales. But my point here really is just curious to see, so how did the market's just open. Let's have a look at Tesla now. Just go see what it looks like on the chart. And actually you can see what's happened here that I think is significant is that we've broken below the previous low on the daily time frame. When you look at it from a weekly perspective, it is still in an uptrend. We're still producing higher lows and higher highs. And I've put in a very gentle dashed trend line here to signify, certainly I would say that if we break these lows, we're definitely, more likely to continue hitting lower. But also just to put a kind of a line in the sand, you can see here we've got the 50, the 20, and let me just hide these. You've got the 50, the 20, and the 10 moving averages in a bullish formation. So generally speaking, when you've got price above the 50 and you've got the 50, 20, and 10 in a bullish formation on the weekly time frame, you are generally in a bull market. Okay, it's a very loose thing, but also highlighting here that the MACD is also trending higher and the MACD is above zero. These are all things that occur in a bull market. So my point is, I'm just highlighting that we have a daily downtrend, but we have a weekly uptrend, and therefore it is still more bullish than bearish going within a correction. And so I could then have a look, if I wanted to, I could kind of have a look at fib levels just to see what is a reasonable retracement here. It's heading towards the 50 fib. There's also a major support resistance level here. So all in all, there's nothing hugely alarming about the price correction at this time. I would say, though, it has failed to break through the upwards trend line, and therefore the question now becomes, does it break through the sort of supporting trend line or the resisting trend line first? I would say that if it can, it's got to break through this 300 level. If it could break up through that, then I think it's very likely it's going to continue up to the old highs. On the other hand, should it start to break through this trend line and start to break below the support level at about 208 or 200 and start to breach that, then the probabilities increase that it's likely to continue lower. The last kind of hold would be around about that one, let's call it these previous lows here, 160. And once it breaks below 160, then one of two things is going to happen. The price is going to continue to go lower until the value is essentially evaporated, or it's going to struggle in those areas for a while. So in other words, if we look at the overall history, it's continued to go up and it's had a good correction with everything else in the market. Now it's sort of starting to recover. So if it does start to go back below this, then the future becomes uncertain. It shouldn't do that, especially if the rest of the market has continued to climb. So in other words, what we're looking at here is we're trying to see, and we'll know, because as I said, if we start to break below these previous highs, back below this level of support and resistance, then all of a sudden the future becomes uncertain, especially if other strong equivalent vehicle manufacturers, EV manufacturers, or similar types of tech stocks are recovering and doing just fine. Then why is Tesla deviating from all of those when the media, at least when the Tesla media, is very, very upbeat? So it's one of those things where the technicals will really provide even fundamental analysts with clues as to whether what you're kind of hearing or whether the numbers have been fudged, because we now know that there has been some cover up of crash data. There's been a whole lot of stuff that's been hidden. So we do know there has been some data cover up with Tesla, but that's not really my point. My point here is that we could see potentially whether it's going to weaken. If it starts to break through this, then it's not as strong as it should be if the rest of the market's going up. And if it does actually recover anywhere in this area, starts to go up and break through that, then I'll do an update on this video highlighting that, okay, it's starting to recover and therefore there's no reason to be alarmed at this time. But technicals are very reliable, because if the price is starting to drop below this, especially when everything else is climbing, then it isn't the market, then it's Tesla. That's how we know. And then you can dig deeper saying, okay, well, somebody knows something we don't, especially when shareholders from within the company are leaving and selling their shares. That's not a good sign, which is something that has happened recently. And so just want to be aware of that. Okay, so I wanted to kind of draw your attention to this, really kind of showing you where the lines of the sand are, what I'm looking at, confirming that it is still currently in, it is still trending higher, even though it's within a retracement within that, and kind of where, for me, I could set the alerts to know whether this is going to be good or bad, and then just to kind of update you on this when that data happens. So when we break, if we come back up to 300, that's already a good sign, even if we're just returning to it. If we break below that sort of 180 or break below these previous levels, then there's a big problem. And it tends to drop faster than it climbs. Even today, for example, it has sort of gapped down, and we'll see how it's going to perform. But gapping up and down on a normal scale. So nothing alarming there. Just saying this is something that I want to keep my eyes on and kind of explain to you how the technicals can help clear up the fundamentals, especially when there's confusion. All right, I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.